Today I fucked up by not knowing what Latina girls say in bed. Obligatory. This happened a little over a year ago. I had recently signed up for a popular dating app and matched with a lovely Venezuelan girl. Let's call her F. She was very sweet, and had recently moved to the US. We chatted in the app a bit and hit it off. Her replies were sometimes worded slightly oddly, but since I assumed English was probably not her first language, I didn't think much of it at all. I even asked if she would like to switch to chatting in Spanish, and she readily agreed. I know a tiny bit of Spanish, like the amount you learn going to high school in the southern US, so I got good at using Google Translate to help me out. Fast forward a week or so later, we were clicking in the app and decided to meet up. I met her at her job, a casino, as she was getting off work. The casino parking lot was rather large, so I called her for the first time to coordinate exactly which section to meet up in. The conversation went something like this. Hey F, it's me Python Puzzler. I'm near the main entrance, where exactly should I pick you up? Less than silence. Hello? Lo siento. No hablo inglés. At this point, I realized that she doesn't speak any English, and must have been doing exactly what I did, which was to use Google Translate. I was a little surprised that she didn't mention it before, but I thought, maybe she assumed I knew more Spanish than I actually did, even though I told her I was using Google Translate, and that we would be able to converse in Spanish. I decided not to bail and just give things a shot. I'd always wanted to brush up on my Spanish anyways. Here was the perfect opportunity. It's also possible the crop top she was wearing factored into my decision. We may never know. So we went on the date, and ended up having a great time. Yes, it was awkward having our phones out the whole date to facilitate communication, but it's amazing what you can put up with and/or get used to when hormones are involved. Fast forward to the first time we were in bed together. She was very vocal and, of course, spoke Spanish. Most of what she would say I understood and expected, si, and, I papi, etc. But there was one thing she kept saying that confused me, rico. Sometimes she would repeat it several times. Now, I knew that rico in Spanish is the masculine form of rich, as in wealthy. So I thought, maybe this is an idiomatic expression I'm not familiar with, something that Latina girls say to express delight or satisfaction. Somewhat similar to how in English we would, sarcastically, say, "Oh, that's rich," where rich doesn't really have anything to do with the original meaning. Not the best analogy, I'm just pointing out how in idioms words can change meaning. I thought it was either that or this girl believed I was wealthy and that turned her on. In any case, I never brought it up. When you have to run 95% of your communication through an app, you tend to be judicious about which topics to bring up. Questioning her dirty talk was not something that cleared the bar. We dated for several weeks, and I think this happened either every time or almost every time we were in bed. Again, I wasn't paying much attention to it because I thought I had an explanation. Things didn't work out between us, but it's not relevant to the TIFU. Anyways, several months ago I was speaking to a friend of mine who is much more intelligent than I am. We were telling stories about sexy, funny things you've said, heard in bed, so I brought this up as something odd, but explained my reasoning that it must be something Latina girls say in bed. Her face has been contorting the whole time I'm telling the story, but when I get to my explanation, she loses her shit laughing at me. I'm confused, but when she finally manages to compose herself, she says, "Oh honey, that's not something they say, that's a name." Suddenly two things hit me. Rico is Spanish for Richard, and I am a fucking idiot. I have no idea what this girl was thinking obviously, but my best guess is that she called out an ex's name accidentally, but then when I didn't react to it, she just rolled with it. Either that or she just never gave a fuck. Doesn't really matter. Either way, I was a Rico substitute for weeks without realizing it. Rico, if you're reading this down in Venezuela, F is clearly not over you. Too long did not read. A Venezuelan chick kept calling out, Rico, during sex. I thought it was just something Latina girls say in bed, but it was another dude's name. Edit. Oh my god. Some of you are pointing out that I was actually correct in my original assumption. I just googled, things Latina girls say in bed, and, K Rico, was on the first site. Today I fucked up a Today I fucked up post, sorry. Edit 2. Also, Rico is not Spanish for Richard. That's Ricardo. JFC, I could not have fucked this up more if I tried. To all those asking, I had never heard the song, Rico Suave. But I have heard the phrase, which I assumed meant a smooth lover, like Casanova. but I also thought it was a name. Like, Ricky Smooth, or something. Venezuelan here. Rico means that you're doing good, buddy. You would use that for food, but if you say it with a smirk it immediately adopts sexual connotations. In bed, it means she loves whatever you're doing. Wrong. Lol, she was just into it. Rico means good. Smiling face. I'm looking for hermanos. The fuck up is you think she was saying a dude's name. I can guarantee you she was saying, "K Rico." No, that's just something they say when it feels good, lol. Bro typed a whole essay just to tell us he fucked a Latina and she enjoyed it. Dude. You're way off. Rico means delicious. Like, she like it. Nobody in South America is named Rico. That would be fodder for bullies. Today I fucked up by upsetting my girlfriend. Things have been going really well between us. We're buying a house together, talking about long-term plans like marriage, getting a dog and having kids. We're committed to each other. Then comes the foo. A few weeks ago we got into an argument over something really small, it's not even worth recapping. But the argument escalated, we were both shouting at each other, and I said some things I shouldn't have. I need to clarify, she is the best thing to ever happen to me. She's one of the smartest, prettiest, kindest people I've ever met. Even if things don't work out between us, I don't ever want to lose her from my life. But in the heat of the moment, I said I didn't know if I wanted to be with her anymore. She just froze, stood there for a few seconds, then left the room and went to bed. Since then she's barely spoken to me, avoided being in the same room as me most of the time. She's still made sure there's food for me for when I finish work, or told me when there wouldn't be, but she hasn't been waiting to eat with me like she used to. She hasn't been hanging out with me, just doing her own thing all the time. I thought I made it clear I only said it in the heat of the moment and didn't actually feel that way. The next day I started talking about our plans for the house. She talked about it with me a bit but wasn't massively into it. I just want her to be how she was before I said that. How can I fix this? Too long did not read. Mid-argument I told my girlfriend I don't know if I want to be with her anymore. She hasn't been the same since. How can I fix this? TBH, you said something that definitely is going to make her doubt her relationship with you in the long term. Imagine having an argument like this again in the future, and the one thing she'll remember is the time you said that you don't want to be with her anymore. You basically need to regain her trust in you again. My ex-husband said the exact same thing to me and it was the kick in the ass I needed to realize I really didn't want to be with him at all. 3 months later we were divorced, and I met an incredible man who is the polar opposite of that dipshit. Words have meaning. Today I fucked up shat for so long that I dislocated my knee. Shitting has always been an issue for me. No matter what anti-constipation measures I take, I still find myself straining and panting like a woman in labor, as I birth my chocolate log. At boarding school we were expected to shit on schedule, every morning after breakfast. Of course we had the ubiquitous school tracing paper to rip up, wipe our assholes. Personally I feel that timetabled turds is a ridiculous expectation for anyone, let alone the chronically constipated. But still I was ushered into a cubicle and told to drop the proverbial kids off at the pool. A spoonful of vile cod liver oil awaited anyone who failed to perform, so naturally I lied and said I had indeed had passage, as matron made us call it. The fetid stench of 19 other prepubescent boys defecating covered up my own shitty shortcomings. A cacophony of plopping, farting and flushing was the soundtrack that kicked off our day and helped me conceal my lie. In the evening I would go to the toilet and try to squeeze one out, not in the good way. After an hour of straining and grunting, I would manage to have passage, about 1 day in every 3. I'm now 45 and every third day remains my current success rate. I generally spend around an hour at a time on the throne. Ordinarily I will shift my weight from side to side every few minutes, to keep the blood flowing. A few times I have stood up then immediately decked it like the Queen's Guard on a hot day. Shifting around on the seat periodically keeps these incidents rare, and normally I am vigilant in following my pooping protocol. Today, however, I was too engrossed in my Suguru puzzles to remember to shift my ass every few minutes. Instead I spent an hour stock still, legs pressed against the toilet seat, a lack of blood flow making my legs into little more than hairy pool noodles. I stood up to flush the toilet and immediately wobbled around uselessly. My legs were completely numb. They really didn't feel they were part of my body, it was surreal. Just like many a horny teen, pre-masturbatorily compressing his own hand for a more luxurious anonymous wank, I too had given myself a stranger, albeit accidentally. I flailed about, numbly taking some tentative steps, like a newborn giraffe. Almost immediately, I started to fall. My limp spaghetti legs had clearly had enough. As I fell, I whacked the side of my leg against the bath, somehow knocking the kneecap out of place in a sharp agonizing pop. My wife ran in to find a pathetic crumpled heap of a husband on the floor. Trousers and pants round his ankles, cock bobbing up and down with each pained sob, hairy legs splayed out at unflattering angles. Noxious odor filling the room. Worst of all, what she would later describe as wads of toilet paper atop a mountain of turd was still clearly visible in the porcelain crime scene. If she questioned her vows at that moment, I don't blame her. Thankfully she was able to help me manipulate the kneecap back into place, so no medical professionals would be subjected to the sensory smorgasbord of my bathroom at that moment. My kids were not so lucky, running in shortly after their mother. Thankfully they found it all absolutely hilarious, even squabbling over who got to flush the pan. Though as usual it took 4 or 5 flushes to shift the brown behemoth anyway. I have no doubt they will delight in relaying the entire story in excruciating detail to everyone they've ever met. Luckily I have no dignity left to lose. Right now I am icing my knee, which is still throbbing. I am feeling sorry for myself, even though I'm so lucky to have an amazing spouse who insists she still finds me attractive, despite recent events. At least I had passage, before I kneecapped myself. I get a 3-day rest before my next intestinal stirring. Too long did not read. Legs fell asleep on bog, kneecap paid the price. Have you tried a squatty potty? It's a little stool that raises your feet as you sit, moving you into more of a squatting position and straightening your bowel. There is evidence it's helpful. Are we all just going to gloss over the routine morning ritual at boarding school or? I'll tell you why this happened to you. You have not paid enough homage to the porcelain god. When you were young, you would have confessed every sin, every wrongdoing to just feel the relief of just one rabbit dropping. Now you play puzzles? No wonder he punished you with a little kneecapping. Consider it a warning. Please eat more fruits and vegetables. Aim for 5 cups per day. Medium fruit counts as 1 cup. Such prose. I've never been more engrossed in a couple of paragraphs. Very well written and my best for your future endeavors. Incredible story there, potential child's book there. Harry on the Potter. Hopefully your knee's all good. Maybe see a doctor in the morning just in case. Today I fucked up by eating popcorn off our living room floor. This happened 2 days ago, and I couldn't make this up if I tried. Last Saturday, my daughter, 10 female, was allowed to have 6 friends spend the night for her birthday. We have one of those large, old-timey popcorn machines in our house, so we fired it up so the girls could eat popcorn while watching a movie. After the movie was over, they went up to my daughter's room to get ready for bed, and I started cleaning up the living room. I noticed there was one small spilt pile of popcorn on the floor, and in my infinite wisdom, I thought, hey, I just vacuumed like 2 hours ago, floor is clean, I'll just grab it and eat it instead of walking all the way to the trash. When I bite down, I encounter something hard, like really hard and way too big to be a popcorn kernel. I spit it out into my hand and it's a freaking molar, as in a human tooth. At first I think it's mine, but after a quick check I realize all my teeth are accounted for. So I asked the girls and it turns out one of my daughter's friends lost their tooth during the movie and just casually put it on the ground next to her and forgot about it. I had some random 10-year-old's tooth in my mouth. Of course all the girls thought this was hilarious, and not absolutely revolting like I did. So they proceed to tell every parent the story during pickup the next morning. You never realize how much a molar looks like popcorn until it's already in your mouth. Fun times. Too long did not read. Ate popcorn off the floor of my living room during my daughter's sleepover and her friend's lost tooth was in it. Don't worry. This tooth shall pass. For some reason, I could feel this in my mouth. Lucky you didn't blow your own tooth up lol. I cracked 2 teeth at once because one broke and then I bit back down on it with another tooth and split it in half. Well, there goes my appetite for the day. Great foo. Would rinse profusely with vodka. I don't care if I'd had just cleaned or not. I'm not eating random scraps of the floor from a 10-year-old. Last I checked 10 years old aren't the most cleanly people. Thanks for sharing though I needed that laugh. This is the sign that you need to get your eyes checked. Tears of joy.